See somebody else walking? Maybe not. All right. Well, let's start. We're going to talk today. This is a three-part series on Jewish medical ethics. And I should have this somewhere here so people can hear me. Jewish medical ethics covers many things. Today's information comes from a three-part series by Rabbi Avram Steinberg, Encyclopedia of Jewish Medical Ethics. It's probably out of print by now, but I don't even know if he's still alive. Close the door. But that's a great book because every chapter has something else that's of interest, and it has like 100 references in the back. So I don't know how he humanly was able to research this all himself, but it's great. Today's topic is caring for the seriously ill on Shabbos. We probably all had people who were sick, either when we were younger, or children, or as we get older, spouses, or people. We see ambulances pulling up every Shabbos. So we're going to go through some of these things. So first, as soon as you start, people walking. There's a famous story. You didn't bring your father this time.
Doesn't really hear so well.
Oh, okay. You'll have to repeat it then. It's being recorded this time. There's a famous story in the Gemara about a rabbi who was lecturing, and after he started, about 5 minutes later, another rabbi came in Talmudic times. So he started again, and then 10 minutes later, another rabbi came in. He started again, and then 15 minutes later, a third rabbi came in. He started again. Finally, after 20 minutes, some fourth rabbi came in, and he wouldn't start again, and the guy never forgave him. I use that as a story on Yom Kippur, and the guy every year on Yom Kippur he would come back and ask him for forgiveness, and he wouldn't forgive him. And finally, when the other rabbi died, he went to his graveside every Yom Kippur begging for forgiveness. So I'd rather wait a couple of minutes to start than have to beg people for forgiveness. Anyway, say again? Oh, we're all not right. Well, maybe you're secretly rabbis. Who knows?
We don't believe
Well,
in rabbis.
we believe in rabbis, and every Jew, Sarah, thinks he knows better than the rabbi. That's the Jewish way. That's right.
On your side of the movement.
On my side.
Right.
Okay. So a little disclaimer, the information today is for general knowledge. It's to make you think. Don't rely on today's discussion for any final halachic decisions. We're going to think about things, talk about things, and I'm going to say it as though it's a definitive thing. But as I was doing research on this, I found that even in the book, it says some rabbis say this, some rabbis say the other thing. There's like no consensus on many things. Always ask your local Orthodox rabbi for guidance regarding individual situations. Every situation is specific, and what applies to this lady may not apply to this lady. And the background information comes from the three-part book series that I just showed you, that book, Encyclopedia of Jewish Medical Ethics, that was written by Rabbi Avram Steinberg and was translated by Dr. Fred Rosner, right, from Far Rockaway. He went to Adrian's father's shul. He wrote many books about Jewish medical ethics. Okay, general principles. But here's how to drop it. For danger to life, or even possible danger to life, one is commanded to desecrate the Shabbos. And in fact, it's better that you do it and ask questions later than you hesitate and put somebody's life at risk. And there are stories about famous rabbis who they themselves desecrated the Shabbos rather than delegate it to somebody else. Just to show an example. If a person acts on Shabbos on behalf of a dangerously ill person, and it turns out that his actions were unnecessary, he has nevertheless performed a meritorious act, and he has not desecrated the Shabbos. And the example of my own life, my sister was in labor. She called me, it was on a Shabbos, of course, And I drove over to her house in Bensonhurst. And by the time I got there, it was only Hicks and Brax or whatever they call it, Brax and Hicks. And it was a false alarm, but I did the right thing by not taking any chances. A dangerously ill person himself is obligated to desecrate the Shabbos on his own behalf. You'll find that a lot of people feel very guilty. They don't feel right about it. We had our own example. I don't know if I can use the name, but we were at somebody's house Friday night for dinner, and the husband looked terrible. I've never seen him like that before. And I told the wife, "You must take him to emergency room." And she told me, "Don't worry, I have an appointment with the doctor next Wednesday." So,
Did he survive?
well,
For a while.
for a while, but he needed to go to the hospital that night. And you all know who he is, but I'm not going to mention his name. The Torah says, fulfilling the mitzvahs, that you shall live by them and not die by them. The purpose of fulfilling mitzvahs and living a good Jewish life is to live by them. You're not supposed to put your life at risk by taking unnecessary chances. General principles. Some rabbis say that all acts necessary to save a life on Shabbos should be done in the normal manner. Others say it's preferable to do this in a different way, using a shinui. Shinui means a backhanded way. Like I know there was something for a Herschel Schefter about people using the elevators here if they couldn't walk. That's what you're thinking about, right? And they said use the shinui. So use your elbow, use your toe. But doing with a shinui makes it only rabbinically prohibited rather than biblically prohibited. It may be preferable to allow all non-essential activities to be done by a non-Jew. If you can get a Shabbos guy to do something for you, then do that. We have, for example, in Bikra Cholim, if somebody needs transportation to a hospital, Greg Facillo, we have an arrangement with him that we'll pay him and he will take people. He knows how to open the door for you, so you never have to do anything wrong. So that's one nice way to do it and not do it yourself. Some rabbis rule that the Shabbos laws are totally inoperative when you're dealing with a potentially dangerously ill patient. We treat the day like it was a weekday. That's one point of view. The other rabbis say that the Shabbos laws are only temporarily suspended, and according to this view, we should minimize the amount of Shabbos desecration that takes place. For example, if you have to cook food for somebody who's dangerously ill, only cook enough food for that day. Don't start making enough to freeze for the rest of the week. Biblically, these are general principles regarding activities carried out on Shabbos. Midioraisa, biblically, one is not guilty of doing work on Shabbos if it's done in an unusual backhanded way. That's the shinoi. But rabbinic laws may still apply. So it's well, that's the two opinions. One rabbi says treat it like a weekday, don't make any changes. The other rabbis say if you can do it in some backhanded way. But again, if somebody's dangerously ill, you don't have to do that. But if you can, you can. And I'll show some examples later. We're going to talk about doctors writing notes on Shabbos, how they can do that in a different way. For example, they could use their left hand instead of the right hand. Nobody can read their handwriting with the right hand anyway. Once they do it with the left hand, forget it.
How is that a shina?
It's a shina because it's not a shina. If two people can perform the act together when one person alone could have done it, then they are both exempt. That's something from the Talmud. That's interesting. If one does not need the act itself, but has a different goal in mind, one may be biblically exempt. And the example that Rabbi Yasfer has used here, There are bollards set up at the end of Wolverton and at the end of Ainsley. If you walk through them one way on Shabbos, it sets off these lights. But nobody does it because they're crossing the street. They're doing it to get on the sidewalk and to go to shul. So you're not doing it because you need it. It just happens to go off. So preferably you should walk around it if you can. But if you do go through it because you forgot, you may not be biblically liable for desecrating the Shabbos. You don't have to bring a sacrificial goat when the Beis HaMikdash gets rebuilt. If the work does not endure, it doesn't last through Shabbos or for a few days after, it may be exempt. So if you do something temporarily, and one of the examples later will be, there are some doctors who, I don't know if they do it now, but they used to write with disappearing ink.
They're still doing it.
They still do that? Nurse Israel? So if you do something that doesn't endure, then again, you haven't desecrated the Shabbos Midiraisa. If the act is not done in a constructive manner, but only in a destructive manner, one may be exempt. The problem with erasing letters on Shabbos, there's no problem with erasing letters, but only if you erase it so that you can rewrite it. Rewriting is a constructive act. Erasing or demolishing things is not. And one is exempt if one does the work indirectly. Many of you are maybe familiar with the Tzomet Institute. They have these gramophones and gramo scooters. You see people here. The way a gramo thing works, it's, when you push the button,
Doesn't stop.
it doesn't go. It goes, it's a delayed reaction. So you're not directly doing anything, and that makes it better. So if you could do it that way, do doctors still use gramophones? I know, yeah, they do. Avilev does that. Okay. Healthy people on Shabbos. If you're healthy, you're allowed to walk. Even if it's part of your exercise routine, as long as you don't perspire. You're not supposed to
Sweating.
not a lot of sweat. You gotta use deodorant. No, it's the idea is not to go to the gym on Shabbos. You don't start lifting weights or doing anything that's gonna make you sweat and have a workout.
You can speed walking. I mean, if you're walking for the point of.
Oh, speed
getting-
walking?
Right, I mean, you're not getting sweated up. I thought that speed walking, certainly running is,
Well, yeah, jogging and running is probably
Jogging,
exercise.
yeah.
Speed walking, it depends if it again
If you get somewhere, that's one thing, but.
oh yeah, if you're in a hurry, yeah, but don't do it for the point of exercise.
Florida, you're walking slow, you get sweaty.
I guess it's your intent.
Okay.
You can eat normal healthy foods on Shabbos, even if they have a medicinal benefit. And the example I thought of is drinking prune juice. People do that to stay regular. And even though it sounds like it's medicinal, it's regular food, and you can eat that on Shabbos. Any other examples people can think of healthy foods? I guess if anything other than cholent on Shabbos, right? Other things that are allowed, hearing aids are allowed to be used on Shabbos. I don't think you can adjust the volume. Yes?
I'm an audiologist.
Oh,
So-
you're perfect.
There's several issues with hearing aids. You can adjust the volume.
Oh, you can.
I mean, if it's something that you're not tapping, if it's a steady stream, you can do that.
Sure.
What you can't do is press different programs.
Oh,
Like that's on like a cell phone?
Well, even on
Or
your
what's
hearing
on cell
aid,
phones?
you would press different programs. Yeah, you can't do that. I would use a cell phone with it. I mean, I think on the hearing aid, you could adjust volume.
Directly.
But the biggest problem now is the rechargeables.
Right.
And last year, I just heard from the Star K that they came up with a solution for the rechargeables, which I was always telling my patients, don't buy rechargeables. Observe, not Shabbos so much, but holidays. You have like 2-3 days. They'll die. So now what you can do is you can put it on a timer. You put the charger on a timer, so that when the hearing aid comes off, it goes into the charger and the charger does nothing, the charger's off. Then over the night, the charger goes on, and then in the morning, the charger goes off before you take it out.
Okay, that's
It's
clever.
like the rubber phone, it's indirect.
Well, it's not, no, it's
It's
not
an
indirect, it's not,
charging.
no, it's not working. No, it's not indirect.
When you
It's
put it
working
down,
normally.
you're not
But
doing.
when you change its position, it's the
It's
same.
not charging yet.
Okay, that's
Like,
very
it's
clever.
like the lights. They go on and off with time.
Exactly, it is a timer, and I never knew that, but just last year I heard that.
Thank you.
was the
I didn't know
way-
that
We
either.
should pass
Good to
that
know.
news around to rechargeable.
Yeah, I don't know what they do.
You're also allowed to wear contact lenses on Shabbos. It's not, you're not carrying or anything else. You're allowed to use a old-fashioned thermometer, not the electronic types. And one of the examples they use is that a woman who's trying to determine her optimum time for ovulation has to take her temperature every day to figure out when's the best time for that. So that's okay.
Do they even have regular thermometers? I haven't seen them anywhere.
As long as it's not a rectal thermometer, you're okay. You can have a cold vaporizer work in the background. A lot of kids sometimes need that, or some adults who have asthma or whatever. It's you're allowed to have it be working in the background. There are different categories of conditions when it comes to how you classify a person who's somewhat ill on Shabbos. One thing is minor discomfort. Minor discomfort is like a headache, runny nose. The patient is not bedridden, and such a person is not supposed to be taking medication on Shabbos. And I'll talk about using medication on Shabbos in a while. But if it's a minor thing, you got to suffer a little bit. The next category is called great discomfort, not minor, but great. And that's when you have severe pain or marked with weakness. And in a case like that, they say a patient is allowed to wash his body with water heated before Shabbos. The next category is a non-dangerously ill patient. So that's a patient who's bedridden or who suffers from pain or discomfort, a person with mild fever, and I'll define that in a moment, a small child, a woman who gave birth from day 8 to 30 days postpartum is considered non-dangerously ill. The first week she's considered dangerously ill. After that, it's non-dangerously ill. And in cases like that, it's preferable for a non-Jew to perform otherwise forbidden Shabbos acts, like warming up food. Otherwise, some rabbis allow a Jew to perform these acts with a shinui, a backhanded manner, for a non-dangerously but ill person who's bedridden, mild fever, things of that sort. The next category is where there's a danger to an organ or limb. What if you fall and break your hand on Shabbos? What if you have some organ, what would be an organ dysfunction? Pneumonia. Huh?
Like if your heart is racing.
Or your heart is ready? Yeah, okay, that's an organ. Yeah, if you have AFib or something like that. So nowadays, the rabbis in the past used to have disputes, but nowadays, all conditions of danger to limb and organ involve possible danger to the whole body. If you're having AFib, as an example, you could get a stroke. You're 5 times at risk. So all biblical laws can be waived to save the limb or organ, since there may be danger to the life of the patient. And finally, there's the dangerously ill patient. The dangerously ill patient is any, here's the definition, any wound from the teeth inwards. So it includes the teeth. If you have a terrible toothache, if you're bleeding internally, if you have an ulcer, any illness cited in the Talmud, they had a list of illnesses cited in the Talmud that they considered to be dangerously ill, but now with modern medicine, we know it's not the case. But since they listed it in the Talmud, we have to go by that, and we say that that's considered dangerously ill too. Any condition which may endanger the patient later that day if not treated immediately. So it may be a condition where right now it's not terrible, but if it continues later in the day, it'll lead to something very bad. So that's considered dangerously ill. And the reason you need to know this is you can do different things for different categories of patients. Any condition that the physician or the patient himself considers to be dangerous to life. So if it's you and you think that your life depends on this, even if your neighbors are telling you it's okay, my cousin had this once. If you feel it's a danger, or if your doctor thinks it's dangerous, and any woman who has just given birth, the first week postpartum is considered that she's in danger to life. Years ago, old men would marry young women, and like in Fiddler on the Roof, Laser Wolf, and Sittle, no, Vital. And women, half the women in childbirth would die in childbirth. It was considered a very serious condition. Today we do better. Although some people, not much. No, it's not 50%. Yeah, it's a significant number, but not 50%. Okay, things that you can do for a dangerously ill person. You can turn the lights on and off. People need to sleep. If the lights are on, they're not going to be able to sleep well. So you're allowed to turn the lights on and off. You can even turn the lights off or on to alleviate anxiety for a dangerously ill person. If you read that on Shabbos night, they have that Mishnayos from losing the words. Right before, after Kabbalah Shabbos and before Marav. What do we say? Madlikin. So if you read it carefully, it says that you're allowed to put on lights or extinguish lights for somebody who's depressed, which is a remarkable thing because half the people are taking antidepressants nowadays. But you're allowed to turn lights on and off. You're allowed to cook fresh or hot food for somebody who's dangerously ill. Normally, we're not supposed to eat food that's cooked fresh on Shabbos, but if you're in a hospital and you're dangerously ill and they serve you food that was just heated or cooked that day, you're allowed to eat it. And leftover food should not be consumed by others. If you're sitting with somebody who's eating and the patient, don't help yourself to their food afterwards. You're allowed to be washed with warm water. One may wash a patient with warm water, but not Yat Soletisbo. Yat Soletisbo is, I think, 114 degrees or something like that. That's where, if you remember when your kids were little, you would put some of the formula on your wrist, and if it's too hot, you wouldn't give it to your infant kid. That's Yat Soletisbo. So you're allowed to be washed with warm water, but not hot water. If somebody's dangerously ill, I think it goes without saying, you're allowed to call for a physician and you're allowed to call for an ambulance. And you'll be surprised how many people here in the village, it's Shabbos, I can wait till tonight, but if you're dangerously ill or even thinking about being, don't wait, just call an ambulance. And one may ask, this is interesting, one may ask a non-Jew to summon the relatives. Some rabbis allow the relatives to violate Shabbos and travel to the hospital to ensure that all proper care is being given to the patient. You need an advocate sometimes. And if somebody comes with you, they'll make sure that you get the right treatment. And here are some specific illnesses and their treatments. Here's something, asthma. If somebody has an acute asthmatic attack, you're allowed to, it's a life-threatening situation because they can't catch their breath. An asthmatic patient is allowed to use inhalers both to treat and prevent an asthmatic attack. When I was a counselor in Camp Moganab Run, what was I, 16, 17 years old. We were on an overnight hike. I'd never seen an asthmatic attack. Some kid just couldn't breathe. And I didn't know what to do. So I ran back all the way to camp and I got the camp driver, and it was scary to see this. And there are people who it's a life-threatening situation. Fever. If somebody has a high-grade fever, and I'll explain, high-grade fever is defined as being above 102 degrees for adults. For children and the elderly, any degree of fever of unknown cause is classified as potential danger to life. Even a low-grade fever associated with an internal illness such as pneumonia is considered something that you can desecrate the Shabbos for, but certainly anything above 102, or if you're a child or elderly and you don't know where the fever is coming from. My late father used to have a fever, and it turned out that he had cancer, yeah, and we didn't know. That's okay. Mental anguish. To prevent a dangerously ill patient from developing mental anguish, it's permitted to violate the Shabbos, even if it's just to alleviate the person's fear. If somebody's getting agitated, you have to calm them down. Certainly, if somebody's having a psychotic attack, something very seriously mentally ill, that's considered a life-threatening illness, and you're allowed to violate the Shabbos for that. Yes.
Do you think that would apply to somebody with dementia as well, who gets very anxious and upset about something in their own reality?
Good question. What do you think?
I mean, my gut instinct is that, yes, they're
Yeah.
a sickness in a way.
Well, dementia is a mental illness source.
Right.
Yeah. And if they're agitated, yeah, because you don't know where to lead and make it worse.
They can hurt themselves.
And they can hurt themselves a lot. So yeah, sure. Okay, so there's your answer. Oh, the question was, what if somebody has dementia and they get very agitated? Is that considered something that's a mental anguish, severe mental illness? So we're thinking, oops.
You know what?
What? Yes.
My husband had severe
Oh.
dementia,
Uh-huh.
and I got him here. He was so sick that, you know what I did? I took him and got him in a conservative school that I could sit next to him.
Oh, yes, I remember.
I was allowed.
That was Andy, yeah.
Yeah, it was this way, you know, he was so sick, and I could sit next to him, and if he like this, and then he'd hear maybe he and see, oh, something, and I was next to it, I couldn't go, so I kept him in conservative school the whole weekend.
Okay.
And of course I wanted to, but it was
No,
like.
no. God will forgive you, I'm sure. I remember, I tell people I've been here since 1983. There was no Orthodox shul. Everybody went to the conservative shul.
There was no conservative shul yet either when we first came here.
Yeah, they raised funds for it, but yeah, this was the breakaway shul. And when they talk about the parking lot minions being the breakaway shul, this is how every Orthodox shul begins. Okay, severe pain. Some rabbis classify severe pain as a life-threatening condition, and you're supposed to give pain-relieving medications. Don't withhold that because it's Shabbos. Internal wounds. If you, again, any wound from the lips inwards, if you have an internal wound, you're allowed to treat it, and it's considered a life-threatening situation. Hand or leg wounds are considered a dangerous condition.
You break your arm.
Break your arm like you did.
Not on Shabbos.
Not on Shabbos. Phobia, leg sick. I guess somebody falls, breaks their hip, that kind of stuff. You're allowed to get it treated on Shabbos. And that happens. People walk to shul here.
Someone was walking and she fell on the walkway and then she broke her leg.
Yeah, oh, it happened this week.
No, last year.
Oh, last year. I remember also, and she lets me use her name to tell the story, Marcia Bronner. She used to think that carrying ID is against Shabbos rules, even though it was considered to be an error. So she had nothing on her, and she walked from Ainsley to the shul. She fell down, collapsed. I don't know if she broke anything, but when the ambulance came, she had no ID. They didn't know who she was. So everybody carries some kind of ID, even if it's a photocopy of your ID. And that's why one of the reasons, well, that's not the reason we have ID checks when you come in on Shabbos, but it's always a good idea to have ID. Last year, we gave out those ID bracelets. And, medical IDs, yeah. Stab wounds. If you're living in New York City.
Or Chicago.
Or Chicago. Yeah. If you get stabbed, that's considered a dangerous medical condition. Don't just put I was at a motorcycle show yesterday and they're giving out these first aid kits and they say, in case you're bleeding, here's something you stuff into your wound to stop the bleed. And I'm thinking, I would rather call an ambulance. I don't want to treat myself. Allergies and common colds, as I mentioned before, are considered minor discomforts. Fractures and dislocations may be treated on Shabbos. Certainly, one may immobilize the dislocated limb or bandage it with an elastic bandage. When you broke your arm, they didn't treat it right away. They put it in a sling until you can get to
They put
see
a tempered thing so you can go see.
so you can see, right. So you could certainly start with that, but if the person is fractured, if you see if it's a compound fracture and you see the bone sticking out, you
Go to
know,
the hospital.
don't wait.
It's not funny, we've seen that.
Elective surgery should not be done on Shabbos. I think we all know that. If you could schedule it, it's not an emergency and you should put it off till another day. Animal bites. If a rabid dog bites you or an alligator bites you or something, then you must have it treated on Shabbos. Diabetes. A lot of people around here have diabetes. A diabetic is allowed to measure his blood sugar using a glucometer on Shabbos by pricking his finger and squeezing out a drop of blood. And there's a little meter that measures what your sugar is so that you know whether you should take more insulin, less insulin, or take different medications for it. And splinters are allowed to be removed with a needle on Shabbos. You don't want to walk around with a
Because it gets.
as it gets
That's
infected.
something different.
That's right. Let's talk about using medications on Shabbos. Yes.
Injuries to the eye
Mhm.
would be dangerous.
That's correct. Any injury to the eye is considered a dangerous illness and you're allowed to get it treated on Shabbos. The reason that they weren't happy about people using medications on Shabbos, they used to have the mortar and pestle thing, and that's how people used to make their medications. And that's one of the malachas. You're not allowed to grind things on Shabbos, so they don't want you to grind your medicines on Shabbos. Today, nobody grinds their own medications on Shabbos. But even nowadays, when nobody does that, you get your pills already made in pill form. You get it from CVS or Walgreens, but the decree is still applicable, although some rabbis are lax about taking medications on Shabbos. But again, it also depends on what it's for. If it's something, I'm going to say that if it's something like diabetes or something for your heart, don't be a tzaddik, take your medications, don't risk putting yourself in a bad place. Yeah,
Different question. You say you're not allowed to grind on Shabbos because that's considered
a
a
malacha.
malacha. But what if you have someone who the only way they could take their medication is to crush the medication and put it into a food?
No.
Is crushing allowed on Shabbos? Is that a malachah?
Well, like I
Because you
said,
don't grind it in a mortar and pestle, but you crush it so it can go into.
unless it's something very serious, you're not supposed to take any medications on Shabbos. So it depends on what the medication is for and what the patient's condition is. Yeah,
I don't know where I, this,
yeah,
but I heard that, let's say, headache.
yes.
So you have it before Shabbos starts.
Uh-huh.
You take the medication, in other words, you're continuing series of medications you've taken before. I think there's some posting that say you can continue.
You can continue to take it.
Yeah.
I
If you have
think if you,
migraines, you can tell.
yeah,
Does
that makes me think about migraine.
Migraine, you're not a headache. but
Migraines are severe pain, and I would give a heter if somebody asked me. A healthy person is allowed to take vitamins. It's not considered medications. Sleeping pills are allowed. Anti-anxiety medications are allowed. If somebody is taking Xanax or something, you can continue to take it if that's part of your daily regimen. A woman who has to take pills on several consecutive days, either in order to get pregnant or to prevent pregnancies, birth control pills, is allowed to continue to take them on Shabbos. Some rabbis allow continuing a course of medication started before Shabbos. I think that's what Sharon was referring to. And what comes to mind is a course of antibiotics. They give what they call that, a 5-day pack, Zithromax or something. And I asked one of my doctor friends, why 5 days? He says, that's how many fingers you have in one hand. They just made up a number. A dangerously ill patient is permitted to take any and all pills. Some rabbis allow the use of anti-pain medications, even if you don't have a migraine, if you have. But generally speaking, we said before that a small headache, try to wait. Patients with angina or who have chest pains are allowed to use nitroglycerin pills to alleviate that pain, because otherwise it could lead to something worse. No. Yes.
What about the CPAP machine?
CPAP. I think, I don't know. I'd have to ask about that.
I mean, I know that my husband has me, and he uses it.
Yeah,
Time.
but yeah, well, does that,
That's so that you can breathe at night.
Yeah,
Once you stop
It's
breathing.
considered that you stop breathing.
if you have
several times
constructive,
during the night.
not constructive, obstructive sleep apnea, yeah, that's. Yes.
What about,
Severe heartburn.
yeah.
Severe heartburn. Well, that's acid reflux. That's an internal thing. I would say yes. That's the teeth inwards that covers your stomach. Let me I can't get this. Oh, here we go. Oh, the wrong way. Okay, give me a second. I gotta do this technology. Various treatments on Shabbos. Things that you're allowed to do. Subcutaneous or intramuscular injections are allowed. Like insulin. Insulin you stick into your stomach, it's subcutaneous. Intramuscular, what would that be? I don't know. Something you stick in the arm. I don't think it means a vaccine, but what they don't want is for you to do intravenous injections unless you're dangerously ill. Intravenous means going into the blood system.
That's if you're in the hospital. Right?
That's if you're in a hospital, yeah. That's if your ointments are allowed. Bandages should be tied together or tucked in rather than cut. Suturing is allowed, although if somebody has a cut, if you can use a butterfly bandage to hold it together until that night, but if not, you're allowed to suture it. And for women, after they've just given birth, an episiotomy is allowed to sew them back together. I wouldn't want to do that.
The
Yeah.
episiotomy is the cutting, not the
That's
sewing.
Huh?
So
That's
if you're
sewing?
giving birth on Shabbos, you're giving birth on Shabbos, you're dangerously not. And that's 7 days.
I just think it's I have a question about the
Sure.
ointment. I thought you couldn't put any kind of ointment on your body and stuff.
I think they're probably talking about a medical one.
Probably a medical ointment and probably, it depends
like
on the
cream,
severity
just-
of, yeah,
Marathon.
yeah. You know what? Let me get back to you on that. So I wonder if you have usually it's dermatological treatments and stuff. It depends how severe your condition is. If you broke out in hives or poison ivy or something, maybe that's the case where it's okay to do. Writing on Shabbos, that's an interesting thing all in and of itself. In hospitals, it's important to keep accurate and complete records so that the treatment team all follows the same thing. So,
That's why my sister told me in Eretz Yisrael, the
Yeah.
Orthodox doctors use a pen that the ink remains for 24 hours, so they can write it on Shabbos. And after Shabbos, they rewrite their notes with a regular pen.
oh, really?
That's what she said they do in Eretz Yisrael.
Okay. So for a dangerously ill person,
Nobody writes it.
No,
well,
they
we're
actually
talking
write
with,
this.
that's one of the things on my list. For a dangerously ill person is permitted to write notes. If possible, a non-Jew should do the meeting writing. Lately, when I go to doctor's offices, I think you went to the orthopedist last week.
Yeah,
They
there's
have
someone
some,
else
they
taking
have a
notes.
scribe, some guy that comes in and takes notes while the doctor's talking. So if you get somebody to do that, that's preferable. If you're a doctor. Writing with the left hand is considered a shinoi, so is writing in a foreign language other than Hebrew.
Do you write your notes in
So
Spanish?
no, you can write in Spanish, but other than Hebrew means English too.
Oh, English is a foreign
Yeah.
language.
You can write in Spanish with your right hand, yeah. I don't know how, I think our brother-in-law is very careful about this, but I don't know, most doctors just write notes. It's permitted to write with disappearing ink. Writing on the computer may not be considered writing. Printing it, though, would be considered writing. Doing something on the computer, it's a whole new technology. Is that really writing? It's something where you have electronic dots and stuff. Today, you'll see all the doctors have different stations in the hospital where they sit there and they write notes. And the joke is that they service the chart rather than the patient.
It's not a joke.
It's not a joke. Using a tape recorder to transcribe notes may not be considered writing, but it's better to use grumma dictation device, something that doesn't go on right away. It may be considered impermissible to write a discharge note for an ER patient on Shabbos because the patient is no longer in danger if you're discharging him. So that's different. Also, doctors should not be signing or writing death certificates on Shabbos because there's nothing more that you can do for the patient. That could be postponed till later. Informed consent. If you go in the hospital and they ask you to sign informed consent, usually it's as they're wheeling you into surgery and you're under sedation. That's when they ask you to sign informed consent. It's 15 pages long and it was written by some lawyer. I hope you save some for me. Just kidding, go ahead. So informed consent, if you could use your left hand or a shinoi or just initial it rather than signing your whole name.
What if you're left-handed?
What if you're like your daughter? And have them do it the other way.
Could you explain what this informed consent is?
Informed consent, whenever you go to the hospital or when you get treated for anything, they make you sign a disclaimer that you know what you're getting into and that you're giving permission to the doctor or the hospital to treat you and to take any reasonable risks. In some places, they say, I know there's a danger to life or whatever.
They cause death. Ask
If
the
you go
doctor if it's
skiing
right
or
for
if you go bowling, they make you sign a consent. I know I'm going to get killed, but it's okay to do this anyway. So that's informed consent. I don't know if
Well, we
it
went
holds.
zip lining with this. didn't we?
Yeah, when you do zip lining, they make you. Use of medical equipment on Shabbos. Electrocardiogram is not to be used for EKG. You shouldn't use it for a routine examination. But if there's a danger to life, if they bring you in for a possible heart attack, then it's okay to use an EKG. Telephone, gramophone is preferable. That's where you have a delayed reaction, so you're not doing direct action. And should only be used for dangerously ill patients. Replace the receiver with a shinoi, you use your left hand. A physician is allowed to answer his phone on Shabbos, because you never know, it might be a dangerously ill patient. You're allowed to hang up the phone on Shabbos. People who are in Hatzalah are allowed to respond, and they're allowed to drive their ambulance back because they may be needed for another call. Pagers, I don't think anybody has pagers anymore, but it used to be a question of whether you could carry it on Shabbos, and they said if you hook it on your belt, it's considered heavy. Thermometer, as long as it's not electronic, is allowed. A thermometer, the old-fashioned type, is not considered muktzah. And as I mentioned before, the cold vaporizer may be left on over Shabbos. Next slide is riding in a car on Shabbos. Nice picture of a car. Old car. There you go. Okay. Riding in the car on Shabbos is permitted for a dangerously ill patient, as we defined before. It's preferable if you have a choice. If you don't have a choice, don't ask questions. But if you have a choice, use a non-Jewish driver or use public transportation. But if this results in a delay in emergency treatment, you can ride in your own car. And the general rule is, don't ask too many questions, just do what needs to be done. It's permissible to call for an ambulance and to ride in one for Shabbos for a seriously ill patient. And a relative or close friend can ride in the ambulance together with the patient. Again, to get the patient the best possible care. A patient discharged from a hospital or an ER on Shabbos may be driven home by a non-Jew. This happens a lot, and people have a dilemma what to do. Sometimes they just sit there and wait till after Shabbos. But if it's a summer day and Shabbos doesn't end until 9 o'clock, you can have Greg Facillo drive you home. I'm putting in ads for Greg Facillo.
No, you ask someone at the desk to call me for.
Yeah.
You at the desk in the hospital to call for.
Mhm.
That's how you get.
And you know that person's not Jewish.
You ask. You're Jewish.
Yeah. Yes.
What about if you're going to the hospital with a patient and then you have to turn off the car or lock the car?
Yeah, I don't think you have a choice.
You can't leave your car running,
What about locking?
because they're all electronic now. It's not like you push a button.
Yeah.
Even electronic cars have buttons you can push.
Yeah.
Not in bars.
If it's good to delay treatment, I would say go ahead, do it with the Shino, use your left thumb instead of the right thumb. But once you start hesitating, you're putting the patients at risk. And I would say don't hesitate. Do first, ask questions later. Yeah.
In that regard, I've heard that because you might be hesitant about taking somebody to the hospital because you're worried about either turning the car off or even coming home, but you're allowed to drive them there and back.
No,
Because otherwise you might put their life in danger because you don't want to have to
no.
drive home.
You're not supposed to think so much, act
Yeah.
first, think about it.
Act first, yeah.
Do to shoot later.
My husband was in Shaarei Tzedek,
Uh,
and what amazed us is that there are religious nurses and doctors who have their shifts regularly on Shabbos, there is a car that comes and picks up the professional and brings them back. But they do ride in the car, and one of the nurses use the computer or whatever, and she is very firm, and that is part of her job.
It's probably a grammar computer, but I just would let you know that, the DASA also have transportation for staff.
Oh, okay, so that must be a common thing. Yeah, otherwise, hospitals would not be staffed on Shabbos. Hey, there's a Yiddish expression, don't be frummer than the Pope. Don't be too religious. I think the last topic is dealing with the deceased on Shabbos. If somebody passes away in a hospital, generally a dead body is considered muktzah. You're not supposed to move it. You're not supposed to desecrate the Shabbos for somebody who's dead already. If somebody dies in their apartment, we generally don't move them. They're considered muktzah. If they die in the hospital, it's permissible to remove the needles, intravenous lines, and catheters from the deceased on Shabbos. But otherwise, that's it. And there was a Gemara or something that if you put a loaf of bread on their chest and lift them up because you need the challah for Shabbos Shudas, that's one way.
Doing that.
But we don't do that. Try not to do that. Actually, Adrian tells me the story about the sin eater.
Oh, you know what the sin eater, should I tell the
Tell
story?
the story of the sin eater.
This is something from the Appalachian people in various, what they would consider Christian communities, where they would have someone who was basically what they call the sin eater. When a person died, they would lay out the body, put food all around, and then everyone else would leave. The sin eater would come and pray for them and basically eat the food and take the sins into himself. And then as if, it's like the way that people, it's like they're teshuvah for the dead person. And that person, the sin eater himself, was considered an untouchable within the community. But this was how he was like the tummy person in their community. He didn't bury them, but he would take the sins onto himself by eating the food that was placed around. It still exists today. It's something we consider nonsense, but it's still something that exists today.
Any questions, comments, anything like that? So now that again,
Ask a Shiloh.
ask a
if you don't
Shiloh
know.
if you can. By next week, we should have a rabbi on call. So it'll all be good, and hopefully we should never have to use any of these rules. We should all stay healthy.
Talk about next week.
Oh, next week's share. Dreams and their relevance to Jewish halacha, interpretation, life.
Will be next week's topic.
Next week's topic. Next week will be my last chance to talk about that. It's part of Jewish medical ethics, but it's very interesting. There are a lot of people believe that dreams are prophetic. I'm still waiting for the dream with the lottery numbers. But there's a lot of Torah involved with dreaming and sleeping, and what's the line from Shakespeare, to sleep
To sleep perhaps to dream.
And it's a whole interesting topic, so I hope you can come again. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
All right.
Good job. Is yours?